Hi everyone, welcome to SOP Podcast. Today we have Charlotte Ludi. She's a global sustainability expert, and she's here and she's going to share with us insights about sustainability, corporate sustainability, storytelling, you name it. We're gonna be here for it. I think it's the best time to allow Charlotte to also be here. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you very much,
Good
Steve.
to see you.
Good to see you.
We have waited for you.
Waited. Waited is a strong word, but I'm happy to be here. Thank you
Okay.
for waiting. Yeah, good things. You wait for good things, right?
Good things take time.
Yeah.
This is the right time to put that line.
Yeah.
So before we start this podcast, I want to ask you two questions.
Okay.
So which is your favorite travel destination? Okay? And which is your favorite book so far that you're reading now?
Okay. So my favorite travel destination would be Rwanda. Yeah, I think.
Why?
I have been traveling to Rwanda from 2018, for both personal visits and also work visits. And in 2018, I did not love Rwanda. I thought it was so backwards. But then now, when I continued visiting Rwanda, I started appreciating it. I started appreciating how they are. I love how they are clean, first and foremost.
Yeah.
I love how they take care of the environment. And my eyes opened 2 years back in the space of why I really love Rwanda. And I was in this expedition on how they are working together as a country to just make their environment cleaner. So for me, that is when I totally fell in love with Rwanda. I love their culture. I love how they have not forgotten genocide, and they are learning from their experiences and talking about it, and they're very vocal about it. And I love how their president is putting that country in the global map. And their stadium is beautiful.
Do you love Visit Rwanda? the hashtag on the Arsenal shirt.
Yeah,
You know.
but you see that hashtag came even after my experience when I started visiting Rwanda.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, it has been something that has been growing on me, and yeah, that's why I love Rwanda.
What sort of the favorite book that you've read or you're reading that you really love?
Wow. So a few. I love Gabriel Union's book on.
We are
going to need more wine, right?
We're going to need more.
Yeah. I love that book. It takes us through her journey in life, which I think sometimes we don't share. As women, we don't share what some of the experiences that have made us become who we are. She was quite real in that book. I really loved it. There is another book that I am reading right now. I've forgotten the name.
Okay.
But it talks about women leadership. I'm not a feminist. But there are certain ththings that as women we need to correct about ourselves in order to get ourselves to the next ladder. And that book for me really talks about it. Basically, the theme in that book is normally what got you here is not what will get you to the next level.
Yeah.
So as much as you think that you have been doing things the right way, you need to change those things in order to get to the next level. And for me, that was quite an eye-opener because I got into the leadership space some time back, but then there's certain things that I was doing that helped me get into the leadership role. But for me to get into the higher role, there's certain things I need to leave behind. So that book was quite an eye-opener for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I am reading one book now. It's written by Sarah Lua. It's called what?
See, we have the same problem. At least you remember the author.
No, I remember the author, but I just posted that book. It's called Sinners. It's called Sinners. It's just an awakening of how women should take charge about what they want in life, the desires, and how they want to shape their perspective in terms of economic, political, all the spheres of a woman. And sometimes people write things thinking that they're writing them for women, but they're actually rewriting them for men because we men also
need to know what to do.
Yeah, to see how to handle a particular situation. Yeah. So while so much topics or information is about women, I personally always think if it's me, then this is how I should approach it. So I'm also learning through the books on how to approach those things.
Another book that I've read, the Book of Luke.
What does the Bible say?
My friend, the Book of Luke is amazing, and it was a challenge that my friend threw to me, and we said we are going to talk about. We were supposed to read the book, then we come and discuss it, and because I've been in this spiritual journey, and it really resonated to what I was wanted to do at that particular time. So, the Book of Luke.
What's your favorite verse there before we move forward to the next topic?
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7, actually the entire chapter 7.
What is one thing that stands out?
So, where John the Baptist was talking about two people, and these are leaders within that particular space, and they have been saying that they are doing things in the way of the Lord, But then John the Baptist told them, like, if you have why do you have two shirts? It's like he was challenging, why do you have two shirts? Why not give one to the poor, Yeah. Why do you, and he talked about tax collectors, why are you collecting so much more than you need? And you should not be, you should not be extorting the public just to achieve, some objectives that you think you need to achieve as a government. And for me, this really resonated with me because as human beings, we keep on chasing more and more and more. We get here and we want more, right? And as much as we have amassed so much, we're not giving out, we're not sharing. People out here do not have, and we have, but we're not sharing.
Yeah.
And why do we always want more?
More, yeah.
Why are we always chasing?
Is it a human nature thing?
Yeah, and then you chase so much, then you start getting mentally challenged. And you start having problems, and it's because you're always paper chasing. Yeah. When is it enough?
It's never enough.
Yeah.
We always never enough, but also the desire to keep wanting also keeps a human in check. Because if you don't desire to have, like nowadays, when you're here, I told you, hey, I like this is a mug. I liked your mug, and you're like, Steve, this is so normal. I'm like, it's unique. I want it.
Oh my God.
So that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. But I'm going to share with you something what you have said from your second book that a friend of mine shared with me. In fact, let me share it because I don't think we're coming back to it. He said when you're moving in, when you're progressing in life, the people you started with are not the ones you're going to finish with,
True.
And that stays with me. And I'm listening.
It's lonely at the top.
Is it lonely?
It is lonely at the top.
Why do people say that?
It's lonely at the top. If you still have friends, you're not at the top.
Oh, what? Where? Sips coffee. It's getting hot. Let's get to the topic. So, we're going to discuss about sustainability. And sustainability is a broad topic. We cannot start and finish it now.
True.
But I think we need to understand what it is. Understand? So then when we dissect it to different areas or specs we're going to discuss, then it becomes easy for us to pick one and nail down. So from your own personal perspective, for someone like me who is in storytelling, and I want to understand sustainability, what will you say sustainability is?
And I want to really talk about it from anyone's perspective. Sustainability for me is how are we conducting ourselves in terms of our resources. Let's go even to our homes. That products that you're using, let's say water that you're using within the house. How are you using that water? When you are using your products, let's go to women. We have so many products. And maybe this product you're supposed to be using, let's say a lotion, you're supposed to be using that lotion for 1 month. Then you use that lotion for 2 weeks. What does that mean? It means you're increasing the demand. Someone is going to make money, right?
Yeah.
But what do they need to do to make that product? They need to now go back, use electricity, use the resources more. It's going to need them to do more for them to produce this particular product. But if you would have used that product sparingly, then you will not be forcing someone to produce more. You get?
Yeah.
So for me, it goes back to how are we using resources? generally, from whichever sphere that you're in. It is not a conversation for some organization or a department in some organization. It is how us ourselves individually, we are using resources in whichever sphere to ensure that these resources, however we are using them, is going to, whatever action you're partaking in for that particular resource is going to actually make an impact and a positive impact to the future generation. So for me, that is how I look at sustainability.
Okay.
Everyone should be talking about sustainability. Now it's before it was just a word for some department in an organization, but then everything nowadays is how are you sustaining this?
So based on what you have said, so then how then do you define when a business says they are sustainable, they are called sustainable business?
Yeah.
So what does it mean when you say a sustainable business? And also, as an expert in sustainability, how do you identify, or what are some of the elements you look at and say this is a sustainable business?
Fantastic. So a sustainable business for me would be a business from the start of their policies. How are you looking at your policies? Are your policies inclusive enough, in terms of even looking at the special interest groups, not just women, Are you giving equal opportunities? In the event that there are, grievances, how do you handle the grievances, So this need to be stated very clearly in a policy. So in policies. So for me, that will be one. If you're doing any operations, let's say you're in the manufacturing space, how are you doing your operations in a manner that you are not affecting the environment? So I will look at from the onset of how are you using your energy, how are you using electricity? Are you using this electricity in a manner that is quite optimum whereby you are not using too much and producing too little? You understand? And if you have an opportunity to go into the space of solar panels, which is a better option, then are you going towards that particular space? In the event that you're in the, again, manufacturing sector and you have wastes, how are you handling the waste? Are you segregating the waste? Because now there's a new law that actually requires for us to segregate waste. Are you looking at the liquid waste? Are you looking at the solid waste? How are you treating this waste separately, right? And if you have any liquid waste, are you treating the waste before you put it into the environment, right? And if you have, if you are in also, if you're looking still in the space of operations, so I've talked about energy, I've talked about the waste, how you're looking into the waste. I'm looking at the resources, if you're again in the manufacturing sector, then you need raw resources. How are you getting these raw resources, right? How is the supply chain? How is your supply chain looking like, So for me, sustainability within a business needs to look at all those spectrums. So it goes now, you break it down even further. So in the space of environment, the space of social, where you practice your own business, what are you doing for the community, right? Even if you're not just the give outs, are you making those give outs sustainable? I don't want to say give outs, but is it a corporate social investment? It's not CSR.
Yeah. Because I wanted to ask that.
Yeah. So it's not CSR. It's an investment. Are you giving these people something sustainable? Are you even employing people from the community within your operations? You've seen those instances whereby a company has gone into this, a global company has gone into, has come maybe into Kenya, but then it has brought in their own people.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like that. You get into a country, employ the people within that particular country. And there are some countries that actually have laws to protect even as much as a company has come into the country, you protect your people, you actually advocate for your people to get the jobs within that particular country. So for me, sustainability is actually everything within an organization. It is how you reason in the space of environment, in the space of social, in the space of governance. You have to have the right policies. You have to have procedures. If you do not have procedures and policies that people need to follow through, then your company will fail, right? And whichever setup you have put in place will quickly become a non-performing. You'll get into a situation of non-performance, and you'll close your shop. Yeah.
Okay. You've mentioned something that I think most corporates and organizations do, and that is what is mostly termed as, from most views, like is the only thing that organizations can do to have sustainable business. It's called CSR. So where they want to...
Are they still calling it CSR?
They are still calling it CSR.
Oh.
So that's I want, and now the reason I'm telling you that, because it's the most prominent first, and you've mentioning instead of corporate social responsibility, you've talked about corporate social investment.
Yeah.
Do you mind shedding light about that?
Yeah. So for me, how corporate social investment should look like, and I'll give instances on various organizations in Kenya who are doing a fantastic job in that particular space. It is going into a society, identifying the needs of that society, and in introducing programs that will help the society in that particular manner. So, for instance, in our space, Kenya, our topmost need is jobs, right? So there was a time whereby we were having a situation. We have so many people who finish school. Everyone wants to go and do a white collar job, but then they're so limited. But what do you do with these people? How do you help these people? And then a company came and said, they introduced a program. They were upskilling these people, not necessarily taking them to the universities, but upskilling them and giving them skills whereby they are able to get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And by getting into entrepreneurships, these are the people who, yes, they did not do very well in high school, but then they get into entrepreneurship jobs and they start employing people who actually got the A's, right?
Yeah.
The A's and B's. That is how that conversation even starts making sense.
Yeah.
So you go to a society, see the needs. If it's upskilling and those programs have worked, actually majority of organizations or the big organizations have done that so well. So for me, that is a corporate social investment. And even give them something to start off, some capital injection to start them off. Then they can come back and pay back, MasterCard has also done quite a good job in terms of corporate social investment. And in the space, let's say, even if you're looking at the space of education for me, because we have very many needy cases in our country, and that particular case is it's an area that majority of the organizations are going into and just making sure that they give scholarship to the needy students so that they are able to go, at least they're pushing them through, So for me, it's not just going to a place and donating something and going back,
Because for me, that sometimes worries me. Because I say, if you come here and donated for us storybooks, okay? Or you've come and donated for us foodstuffs during Christmas. That's a very big... Actually, it's cultural in most corporate organizations in Kenya. So then what next? Because we are around you, and you can only remember us during Christmas, So what are some of the models, organizations, beyond the normal ones? What are some of the models that you think organizations should adopt in ensuring they have a sustainable business for themselves?
Oh, for themselves?
Yeah.
So internally. So for me, first and foremost, it will be what I did mention, governance goes a long way. How you just have policies in place to, let's say, ensure that we are promoting gender inclusivity, because we are in situations whereby it's a bit of a male-dominated society. So how do we ensure that it's equitable, across the board? And even now going deeper into the marginalized people, the marginalized people we have within the country, how are you giving them the opportunities? The special interest group that I even talked about, if you have, let's say, you are procuring for any services or any products that you need within your company, how are you ensuring that you are giving the opportunities to the special interest groups? And it goes even deeper with that, from just saying and putting it within the policy, but even putting in targets in place. Targets that we need to achieve 10%, let's say 10% of the people that we're going to give we're going to give procurement tenders to, they need to be at least at 10%. So being very intentional about advocating and making sure that these people are given the opportunities, that for me is quite key. And so that bit in terms of governance, that is one of the areas. In terms of social, looking at the social parameters, how your HR even treats your people inside. Your internal guys are your main people. They're the people who can actually make or break the organization. So how are you advocating for your people? How are you making sure that their wages are actually up to par? Are you giving them competitive salaries? Are you training them? Because nowadays, even within we have something that we normally report to on sustainability reporting, whereby the people want to know how much you are spending in terms of training.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, how
yes.
That's new.
It's not just about...
Is that new?
It is new. It is new in terms of you need to report on it. Understand?
Yeah.
People used to say to do it, but then now people want to know how much you're spending in terms of report of training, and even going deeper and saying how many people were trained, how many males were trained, how many females were trained, what are the programs or the training programs that you have in place that enable, and people want to even see there are certain problems that we have within the society, like ethics, items to do with ethics or items to do with even sustainability. Do you have programs in place to train your people for them to be upskilled in those matters? So for me, social is first your people, advocate for your people internally, and then now you start advocating for the community. So now the community, I'm looking at the corporate social investment. And it also goes ahead beyond the corporate social investment of what I had just spoken about. But then if you are doing anything with a supplier, how is that supplier conducting his business? It's no longer about just looking at your own self, but then looking at the people around you and how they're conducting their business. Because if, let's say, a supplier that you're with, and he goes and conducts business, and I'll give an example of how they are releasing their waste into the environment. Let's say they're giving you books, they're printing for you books, right? Then this supplier has chemicals, and he deals with chemicals, mixing of chemicals, and then maybe they mix with water within his company, then how he disposes that water without treating. Then that water goes into, you see that hell that we have with Nairobi River, right? It actually came up because of such instances whereby people are not treating their water before disposing their water.
I'm understanding you.
Yes. And then, let me bring it back home, right? So this particular supplier, you're doing business with them. Then the regulator comes for them and tells them that you're not conducting business in a proper manner. So we are going to close you down.
Yeah.
What does it do to me who am doing business with them? Right? So these are the questions that we need to start asking ourselves. Like, the person that you're conducting business with, are they doing the right business? So that you are also, you're proofing yourself and making your business more resilient by making sure that everyone around you is doing business the right way.
You've mentioned something that I want us to talk about, the diversity and inclusion. The diversity and inclusion in organizations. Are we going to promote, first of all, how do we promote diversity and inclusion for sustainable business? And secondly, for me, because I'm speaking from a learning perspective, that there is a narrative that goes on and says that most areas are male dominated, okay? But if you look at how also these men got themselves into these positions, they literally it was a toil and coil for them to get particular positions of power, of influence, not because they were men, okay?
Yeah, true.
Because they literally work. And a good example is our governor now, Sakaja. Before he became the governor, you understand the politics that went down with him. So I cannot say for him to be a governor, it was because he was a man. So how then do we ensure that when you're discussing diversity and inclusion, we are not gender targeting particular gender. So that's one. And also I want you to when you're discussing about the diversity and inclusion, I want you to touch on how then do we in a merit way have women absorbed, because the conversation has been men have been dominating, but why have they been dominating?
Yeah, men are bold. Men are bold. Women are not, first and foremost. I always say, women, we need to raise our hands. We need to get ourselves in the room, right? And this is based on even research. And sometimes when you call out for jobs, when you call out for people to apply for jobs, you will always find more men applying than women, right? And sometimes even these men may not be qualified, but the fact that they have just raised up their hand and they're putting themselves there, you know, gets them in the rooms, you understand? And women are naturally perfectionists, and they will want to perfect something before they raise up their hand. And for me, that's the reason now I think we ended up in a situation whereby we have the male-dominated society. There's many other factors that played into it, but maybe that is of course one of them. And so hence the reason why we have really advocated for programs that can be put in place that can help women. Also, we always say, if I'm to paint a very good picture, when you join an organization with a man will not have any disruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Women, we have to take some time off to go and give birth.
Yeah.
Take the maternity. When you come back, the man that you joined with is progressing, right? So there are certain things that we are naturally ordained to us as women that we have to do. And I will say the reason why, so hence the reason why if we have certain policies that really need to advocate for women based on what we need to do as women within the society, right? And so some of those things that need to be there within the workplace that really need to advocate for women, one of them is even when you're doing recruitment, make sure that you, as much as you are going to have men, ask where is the women, where the women ask, and sometimes these things can also be helped by data. Go back and see the way you're employing, how many promotions are being given to women, how many are being given to men. If the promotions for women are less than men, ask why.
Yeah.
Don't leave it at that. And if you get the why, do something about it. So how are we going to tackle it? Introduce programs for women. If they are not bold enough to raise up their hands, how do we make them bold enough? And certain organizations have done it quite well, whereby they have even introduced mentor-mentee programs, for women in the workplace. But then also you need to make sure that you're balancing. You're not leaving the men behind, because you do not want to be in a situation whereby women have been advocated for so much that now the men have gone back. Because at the end of the day, they are the leaders within our society, and they need to continue being that. So various things that can help to make sure that women are advocated for within the workplace through policies, being very intentional about it, the programs, the training programs, and make women feel safe. Create a very safe environment for women. And now going even to sexual discrimination policies, make sure that you have a section within your policies that states very clearly what a woman needs to do when they feel that they have been, their rights have been violated. Yeah. So help women to understand within the workplace that this is a safe environment for you. Help even the men understand how to make the spaces safe for women. So it's quite a long conversation that we can have about that. But for me, those are some of the key things that organizations can do to make sure that their spaces are gender inclusive and they're advocating for women in the workplace.
I want to go back to something we were discussing because this conversation is also getting more interesting. About your background in communication. First of all, how was it in communication? I know, how was it in communication, and then how did you transit to sustainability? And what are some of the things that you've learned a major difference in those two? I'm really interested in that.
Stephen, I know what you're trying to do, but I will not go there. But communication for me was, it was quite an interesting space. for me, communication, I felt that at some point in my career, I felt that I needed to be more in the rooms that are creating the ideas. Currently, I feel that communication is not being brought in the room, and it needs to be for these communicators to be in a situation whereby they are able to storytell, about certain products, certain services that you are launching into the market. They need to be brought in the meeting, in the room. But then we have seen instances, and you have been in that space also, whereby communicators are not brought from the start.
Product.
And also it's because maybe they do not have a role to play from the start. Because if you're doing product development, what really is a communicator coming to do from that particular point? So communicators really need to advocate for their roles from the start. And so for me, that is what I was competing. I was really, struggling with, and I felt like where I was at, it was an afterthought, as a communicator. So hence the reason why I started being interested in the space of sustainability from 2016.
Yeah.
And I started working in that space by force, in that space. And when an opportunity came by, a solid opportunity came by in 2020, I was ready to go. I was ready to move. And back then, how I was looking at it is like sustainability is a very complex subject. And as a communicator, it will help me to just be able to further break it down for people to really understand what sustainability is all about. And that is how I saw it back then. But then even now, getting into the technical, it stopped being about just communicating about sustainability, but now doing the actual work on sustainability, looking at how businesses need to operate and for them to be actually environmentally or socially friendly. So it has been quite a good journey for me. I love the upskilling that I've been able to do for me to enable me to be ready for the various roles that I've had in the space of sustainability. And I don't regret that move. I don't regret that move. And I'm happy about it.
So I'm not going to ask you that question, but for people who are into communication, who are thinking of transitioning to sustainability
or any other field,
what is this one thing that you think you can share that you did that they could learn from you? That is very key. That was very key during your transition.
Also, you need to understand that there are some people who love communication. They are good at it, and I was okay at it. I loved it for a while.
Do you still love it?
I do, and it helps me sometimes, because when I'm launching, and I gave you that example, when I'm doing a sustainability report, from the onset, when I'm curating the ideas, when I'm doing up to the part of when now I'm launching, I'm able to actually pick out some of the key messages that will help an audience to resonate with the report. So for me, there are certain elements that have really helped me, that I use from communication in the sustainability space. Something that I will tell communication practitioners who would want to transition, right? The key is who would want to transition to any other field. For me, they would need to know which field they want to transition in. The good thing with communication, again, you are exposed to everything within the organization. That is the very good thing about communication. So within the various things that you're exposed to, you can pick an area that you want to really get into and become more skilled in that particular area. So you pick that area and you go with it, and it even gives you a double advantage, because you will get into that space, you will know how to narrate that story for those people. Because sometimes majority of the people who we have within this very skilled people we have, let's say in IT, they only know how to do their IT stuff, right? Yeah, but then they do not know how to tell that story of what they have done. And that's why sometimes you see IT people, majority of the people say, oh, nafanya tu vitu zao. No one understands what they're doing. No one understands what they're doing. But you can imagine a communicator who has gone in the IT space, has upskilled and gone into the IT space.
Yeah.
That will be something so brilliant, Yeah.
I want to ask about sustainability report. It's big. You understand? Every corporate, I have documented, as a storyteller, I've documented sustainability launch of a report. Why is this always big and key, because I always don't understand why do we have, of course, a sustainable plan for, let's say, 5 years. Why should we launch it?
Or why should we launch it? Or why should we do a report?
Both.
Both. For me, doing a sustainability report, and it also helps if you have something to communicate within the report. Because you may want to do a report, but what is the content, you know? So it goes back to having a plan. What is the strategy? What is the strategy of that particular organization? What are your key things that now if you have to do a report, what are the key things that you'll be talking about within the report? So that for me is key. But then also we have to look at sustainability reporting as a way of now the storytelling. It's a way to tell your story. It's deeper than integrated report. I always say integrated report, although now integrated reporters are being forced to now give more details. But sustainability reporting is a way of now qualifying your numbers, right? So what do these numbers mean? So if we have given, let's say, a number of jobs to the women, what does it mean, right? And it's no longer about just reporting. Sustainability reporting is not just about communicating about these are the number of jobs that we have given, but we'll go ahead and say this number of jobs went to men, these ones went to women. And these are now some of the problems that we're tackling within the society, right? If we are saying that we have a society that is male-dominated, how are we tackling the male dominance, right?
Yeah.
And if we are talking about jobs are not there for the youth, then you go and report, this is how we supported the youth, right? And now some of the things that you did, the engagements that you had with the youth, that's an opportunity for you to tell your story as an organization.
Yeah.
And we have various, frameworks that have helped us to do sustainability reporting. And one of them, when I was telling you, nowadays, everything is not just about numbers. And you say, as an organization, this is the number of people that we have employed, number of interns, number of promotions that we have done. But it goes deeper to say men and women, right? If you're doing your business, how are you doing your business? Report about it, If you're doing, let's say, it's a manufacturing company, how you have now ensured that you're reducing your usage of electricity. How have you done that, Have you gone into the space of renewable energy, So talk about such things. And sustainability reporting gives us that opportunity. And it gives you an opportunity to tell your story before someone else comes and runs away with it.
Yeah.
Because there's certain instances whereby, if you can imagine if a company was doing a sustainability report on an annual basis, then one day they have a situation. Let's say something to do with maybe they're not promoting women, in their workplace. But then you have been documenting it. So you can actually go and say, this is what we have been doing for women, Instead of someone else to come and tell you their story or their version of it, you have been documenting it before.
Yeah.
And that is the risk that currently face organizations. And because people have become the work generation, right? And people know things, and people will get information, and they will interpret it in whichever way.
Brilliant.
So sustainability reporting gives you an opportunity to tell your story, and people should be doing sustainability reporting. And not just because the regulator is saying so. Not because the regulator is saying so, because we have gone into a space whereby regulators are saying that we need to do sustainability reporting.
Yeah.
But now look at the organizations that have been doing them, let's say, for 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're in such a good space because now they're not doing it for the regulator.
Yeah.
Yes, and it helps also with their investors, because people who are investing in your company, you being transparent and seeing what you're doing helps again with the investors.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
This is so insightful. I feel like I'm going to turn into sustainability expert.
Please
soon.
join us. We need more. And we need the ones who are truthful, because we have seen a situation whereby people want to do sustainability because it's, I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this in a podcast, because it's a sexy topic,
I'll just say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And numbers have stopped being sexy. Numbers used to be sexy. And AI can do numbers for us, right? So sustainability is the in thing. So we have situations where people are going to sustainability because it's the in thing. But we need true advocacy in the space of sustainability. Because we have seen a situation whereby there's this thing called Net Zero Banking Alliance. It's a global alliance. And when Trump came into power, we now saw the global banks who had actually signed up to Net Zero Banking Alliance dropping off.
Oh.
They're huge numbers. It's the big banks in the American space that are dropping off. So if you see if you're in such a situation, then it means why were they there in the first place? It means that they did not have the right intentions.
To being there.
Yeah, to be there.
Or it even suited their political and economical ambitions.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to go delve deeper because this is the last bit of this conversation. And I want us to discuss sustainability and storytelling because I'm equally a storyteller. And I was telling you that as storytellers, we are mostly left behind when it comes to sustainability. We are only called at the last bit of it where there is pomp and glamour, not knowing that we should be from the inception of it. So, as a sustainable expert, what's your take about involving storytellers on your sustainable plan, sustainable strategy, and policies from the word go? So that then, when whatever you're communicating to your stakeholders and your internal, both internal and external stakeholders, remain relevant from the word go. That I think, as a storyteller, I'm asking for my friends who are going to watch this.
Yeah. Now, what your friends need to know is that first, everyone has to have the interest. You need to understand what you're storytelling about, right? So it's more of, because we have people within, I know of journalists who are within our sustainability. We have sustainability WhatsApp groups, but then they're in those WhatsApp groups. And because they are interested in the space of climate change and the space of sustainability, and they have taken time to learn about it so that when they are doing that storytelling, they really understand what they're talking about. So for me, first, it's a matter of really understanding what sustainability is all about. And if we are coming to the space of launching a report, and you are launching the report, ask for the report. Ask, because even if you're being called to do the launch of the report, you can actually say, because this report is actually done, can I have the report beforehand?
Yeah.
Read the report, so that you even have ideas to bring to the owners, because based on what I've read within your report, this is how you should position it, right? So that is one thing that I think storytellers need to also be cognizant of, even as they want to really report on the aspect of sustainability, or even in any other space. This actually, it applies to any field, It's not just about coming and covering and going your way, understanding that particular space. And if you get into, now you're very interested, though you've said you're interested in sustainability, if you're now very interested in that space, you even now become the journalist of sustainability.
Yeah,
when COP29 is happening, you're the journalist that goes to cover COP29 or the next COP, So I think for me, it's just a matter of kujituma and learning and understanding what you're reporting.
Okay. Nibidi hashtag kujituma.
Yeah.
One more question, because I wanted to ask you about risk in sustainability. I wanted to ask you about how sustainability plays in overseeing companies' sustainability of effort. But one question, because you're a global sustainability expert, and there are so many trends, okay, that is now shaping how companies model their businesses. What are some of these trends that are shaping sustainability, and how then do you see sustainability in future?
Yeah. I will talk about one major area, risk management, right, in the space of sustainability. And for me, and even based on the various companies that I have worked with, for me, what this means is that looking very keenly at the various risks that your company can be subjected to and seeing how to mitigate those risks. Sometimes people look at sustainability just from the risk element, but then people do not understand that with these risks, there's also an opportunity, an opportunity to make your company even more resilient. So if, for instance, if you have seen that, as a company, you're using a lot of electricity and you're paying weird, quite huge bills in terms of electricity, you have an opportunity to go to the renewable energy space. And what this does to you and the opportunity that it gives to you as a company is to save on your costs, right? So you're saving on your costs because the people will always want to hear about saving on your costs, but then also reducing your emissions, your company's emissions, because we are getting into a point whereby, based on what the regulator wants to see, that we are now, companies are going to be asked to calculate their emissions based on, actually something that's coming up, based on what you're doing, you're supposed to calculate your emissions, right? And so if you know that these are your emissions, how do you reduce these emissions, right?
Is that the carbon credit conversation now?
No.
Okay.
That is
I'm learning.
carbon emissions. Those are carbon CO2 emissions based on your practices within your organization. So for me, it is a matter of looking at your risk and how you're going to mitigate that risk. And by mitigating that risk, you're creating an opportunity. An opportunity not just for you as the company, but also giving a job opportunity to someone externally. Because the person who's going to come and implement and install your solar, you're giving the opportunity to that person, right? And also, as you're looking at your risks, there are various things that you need to look into when you're looking at your risks, and even you need to be in a space whereby you're looking into the future, right? You're doing something called scenario analysis. What would happen in the event that rains come? If you're in the agricultural sector, and we saw the rains that came in last year, it was in the month of April, and we had flooding. People have actually said we do not have crops. We're about to see the biggest drought that we have ever seen. How did you mitigate that particular risk? Did you take up an insurance to insure your crops in the event that those floods come up? So these are the questions that business owners need to ask. They can be helped by financial institutions in that particular process, but as a company, you need to ask yourself quite key questions to make yourself very risk resilient. Yeah.
AI and sustainability. We cannot live without discussing that.
AI in what way?
Can you look at it in an environmental way first of all, and then let's look at it also from a competence way, in terms of how many people is AI going to say goodbye, to ask them to say goodbye to work because it's here, and how also do we use AI to help us be better in our sustainable plans.
For me, AI will help us in the space of sustainability in regards to data, because this data will help us to tell the trends. It is something that you can just go and see. Let's say weather patterns. And with these weather patterns, you'll be able to say, then when do I need to plant my crops? Just by getting that information through AI. So AI AI will help the space of sustainability, and in terms of maybe making some jobs irrelevant in the space of sustainability, that could happen. I've not seen it happening yet. I know the jobs that are at risk because of AI, but I've not really seen it in the space of sustainability. And maybe because also sustainability is quite a complex subject. Then there's so many facets to it, and you cannot really say that AI can do some part of the sustainability jobs, but then not the entire value chain. It cannot tackle the entire value chain. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Well, that's brief and sweet. Last but not least, I'm on the global space because now you're global sustainable. You're a global expert in sustainability, and I want to look at Africa. And I want you to bring in the COP29 that happened in Azerbaijan. And what are some of the things? What are some of the takeaways that you probably learned that Africa could want to implement, or just not as Africa, the world could want to implement to make specific spheres work and continuously benefit community, citizens, and global organizations?
Yeah. First to say, I always say the climate change problem that we have was majorly contributed by the Western guys. And Africa, what our contribution to, let's say, emissions or the climate change conversation is a very small percentage. But then the impacts or the negative impacts are being felt majorly in Africa, right? And that's why we cannot sit back and wait for things to happen for us. I think we need to take charge as Africa. We need to take charge. We need to be in the rooms that are making the decisions, and the conversation about climate financial flows coming to the space of Africa, it may take a while, and now with different governments have different thoughts and ways of doing things, and because of that, then we cannot be waiting for other governments to do things for us, the Western governments to do things for us. We have to come up with our own solutions, right? So in the space of agriculture, how are we being affected by the conversation of climate change? How do we start, tackling those particular challenges that we have? Because at the end of it all, if we just wait for the Western states to help us, we are not going to get anywhere. Yeah. And this is something that I also saw during COP29. And if you even were able to follow the proceedings of how, let's say, in the negotiation rooms, maybe they were even happening when the African states are not in the rooms.
Yeah.
And decisions are being made when the African states are not in those rooms. So who's advocating for us? So clearly, we need to come up with our own ways of doing things, of tackling our own challenges. And, some of the technologies that are being introduced within our spaces for the different sectors can really benefit Africa if we really look into it very keenly and embrace them. It's no longer a conversation that can be had by other people, but it needs to be had by us. It needs to be we need to have that conversation as Africans ourselves.
Yeah. What do you see is the future of sustainability now? What is this thing that you say in 3 or 2 years' time? I'm thinking this is what is going to happen in the sustainability space.
People are going to accept it more. I'm hoping to see that because sustainability still faces resistance, from different companies, because the question that I've had companies asking is, why do I need to do this? Because climate change is not really as close home, and people may not really be feeling the negative impacts the way people want to still feel it. I think it's something to do with just human beings. They're not feeling the negative impact as yet. And so we are in a situation whereby we need to do a lot of advocacy, which is what, I'm in that space and always advocating on why people need to do things the right way, why you need to take care of the environment, why you need to look out for the society. Because if you do not ask these questions, then the impacts or the negative impacts are going to be huge, right? So in 3 years' time, I'm seeing people accepting it more, because these conversations are being had. It was one thing when we were feeling the negative impacts, but then we were not having the conversations. But then now these conversations are being had, and I'm seeing a lot of acceptance and people doing things the right way going forward. Yeah.
What's your favorite quote of sustainability? Or what's just your favorite quote?
Leaving no one behind.
Why?
Yes. Why?
Yeah, why do you like? I also love it. I also love, like, you don't leave anyone behind, but why do you love?
Yeah, because it goes back to what I said at the beginning. Sustainability is not just a one-person thing. It's an everyone's business. It's everyone needs to talk about sustainability. So hence that particular point quote of leaving no one behind.
I'm also not leaving anyone behind.
Please do not. Please do not. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming.
Thank you so much, David, for having me.
You.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We hope you come back again and we can have...
If you let me, I'll come back if my schedule allows.
Charlotte has promised to come back for the next topic. We're going to look for the topic and probably now go deeper into specifics and see how we can dissect them and understand them even better. This is an introduction to sustainability. Courtesy of Charlotte Ludi, the global sustainability expert. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We hope to have you again.
Thank you too.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.